Welcome back, War Thinking News. This week, World War Mode Season 2 has come around, and there's some other very interesting things happening in the background. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's talk about World War Mode Season 2. Most people, at least in the circles I go in, we're not very excited about World War Mode. Some people seem to like it. However, I, and most of my squadron, did not. So in Season 2, Gaijin has claimed to have changed quite a few things, and they have indeed. The most notable change would be that there is Navy and also a Japanese campaign, which I'd be very into, except for some of the reasons we're going to get to in a bit, some of the fine details. But another positive thing to do is that now so every vehicle you take out, regardless of how researched you have that vehicle, is going to be spaded. There's also a new system they call vehicle groups, where there will be a group of vehicles that you can take out instead of a single specific one. So all the weird modifications of the Spitfire, for example, would be grouped together as the Spitfire, and any battles that take part with Spitfires, you could take those out. I'm assuming they are adjusting it by battle ratings, which would be nice because I'd love to take out my Rogue O, and I doubt that would be included in any of the usual battles. However, there is a caveat to this, is it could lead to extremely unbalanced things. Heaven forbid you ever run into a KV-220 on that battlefield. And with navies being included in World War Mode, of course, there's naval invasions that can happen. I'm not exactly sure how these will work out, but they have some landing armies, marine squadrons, and coastal artillery, which all sounds very exciting, and I hope functions as well as Gaijin is hoping it does. There were a few other changes that are Gaijin deemed important. However, I find them less exciting because I want to get to the other important changes Gaijin put them as, but they're more of like fine details on some of these things. The important ones I fished out were that fleets in World War Mode are represented in the RB game mode with vehicle markers, arcade speed, and controllability multipliers with arcade torpedo speeds. Yep, it seems for whatever reason Gaijin decided that it needed to be Arcade Plus again. Now, this actually sounds kind of interesting. I'd like to see in action. I have a feeling I won't like it, but I just kind of want to see it how it will work out. I don't like the firing system in arcade ships. I find that it's too handholdy. I think you can turn it off, but the vehicle acceleration and the torpedo speed might make the game mode very silly. Although I'm very concerned about actually the torpedo speeds, as it could lead the game to be very unbalanced, as Japanese torpedoes have a much greater speed, and if they're going at fast speed, it could be very hard to try to dodge them. Another one of these details I found was very important was the ground vehicle markers in battles have been changed. Markers of detected enemies have been reduced in size and raised higher. Mission targets are now marked with special new markers. So here, at least they kind of changed it, but most people don't like the Arcade Plus system. Arcade players don't like the realistic bits, and the realistic players don't like the arcade bits. There's quite a few other important details that I should be talking about with World War Mode. Like if the commander of one of the parties is not active for 20 minutes, the squadron will lose automatically with a technical defeat. But here's my thing is, World War Mode, despite all these changes and everything, is still really disappointing. Like, I don't get why that has to be some sort of grid-based battle system. Why we can't just have larger maps with large battles on them? And yes, I know probably some weird technical reasons, but here, I want to propose an idea on how I kind of wish World War Mode was to go. I wanted it to be its own individual video, but God, that's never going to come out. So here's the basis of the idea of, instead of having like recreations of historical battles being split up into smaller historical battles on a hexagon grid, let's have the entire globe cut up into regions, kind of like Hearts of Iron does. And each region is a procedurally generated map that is consistent always. It's never going to be a different map. But most of the maps are going to be just like forests or some random village somewhere. Just some basic stuff. It doesn't need to be handcrafted in any way. And then a squadron would choose a certain nation to join. And then from then on there, it would be kind of like Warband, for the squadron leaders would lead their forces around and either defend important territories or attack the enemy from certain angles. And then you could have it either be an automated system in which vehicles are added to the available vehicle pool over a period of time throughout the war, or you could have it so the squadrons that make up a nation vote on what vehicle they want to research next, and squadrons that win more battles have a stronger say in the vote. And a voting system like this could be translated to other systems like what country to invade next. And then a victory status for this could either be that one nation takes out all the other possible nations, or it's just over once a certain date is met, the war is ended, and whoever has the most territory is the victor. You could add even more detail into this by having nations select countries that aren't even represented in game currently. And I guess unrepresented nations would get like stock standard tech trees of assumed vehicles, or they could trade resources for other nations' vehicles. There's a lot of ideas that could be put into that, and I think it'd be very fun, although we're never going to see it, probably because of technical reasons. But man, I think it'd be like really fun. The popular nations would be large battles with thousands of players, not all in the same battlefield. It'd be similar battles of like 20 versus 20 or so. But once you finish that, there'd be another squadron that wants to go up against you. I guess once your squadron is AFK, it could be taken over by some bots, although Gaijin's bots are kind of trash. And then you could have like smaller scale battles between nations that are less interested or not currently in game. You could break up historical sequences like Japan not attacking America. And when a nation loses, you could have it so the existing squadrons either choose to join the conquering nation or go into exile and have to save their country by fighting for another. Like, I think something like this would really show all of War Thunder's strengths of the large amount of unique vehicles, multiple different types of vehicles that can work together. Hey, maybe Gaijin's kind of like planning to go in that direction. Maybe. And we gotta take baby steps to get there. But let's get our heads out of the clouds. Let's talk about what's in front of us. For this World War mode, there are 2 event vehicles that you can get, either by doing tasks in battles of World War mode, like your typical task event, or you can just purchase them via Golden Eagles, and I'm pretty sure they'll be available on the marketplace. Currently, as World War mode is in session, you can actually test these out. To do so, all you have to do is go to World War mode, best leader this session, look at the leaderboards, click on rewards, press the more button, and then click the eyeball of whatever vehicle you'd wish to take on a test drive. So my take on these vehicles are that they're kind of interesting, but not too so. The first one, the BA-11, I have categorized as a worse BT-7, which is probably why it was never actually added to the game, as it doesn't have much above the tank that you get right after the reserve tank. Off-road, it went about 31 kilometers an hour. On-road, it went about 53 kilometers an hour, while the BT-7 goes 53 both off and on-road. The armor is all around 13 millimeters, though there's one spot that is 10 millimeters and one spot that has 2 15 millimeter tracks on it, though I'm pretty sure tracks are as effective as structural steel. Altogether, this armor is worse than the BT-7. It also is larger than the BT-7, so it's an easier target to hit. It does have one more crew member, but your crew members are so stuffed together that I doubt it will make much of an impact. So generally, I'll say that while the vehicle isn't really adding too much, it's still disappointing that it's an event vehicle, as it was a very common vehicle during the war, and would fit better as a premium, or even a simple event, like get 3 victories during Russia Day or whatever. My final verdict is that because you can't use the hull, or I guess cab machine gun, it's 0-10 worst vehicle in War Thunder. As for the destroyer, well, it's a US destroyer. It looks pretty alright. It's got proximity fuse shells, a good amount of anti-air. I purely want it because I have no other US destroyers, and I need one to get into enduring confrontation and use the Helena, because I'm a pay-to-win scrub. Now, World War mode isn't the only thing that has grabbed my interest these days. In fact, it's kind of hardly grabbed my interest. What I'm really interested in is about getting them Gaijin bucks from selling the event vehicles. As since the last event, the vehicles have changed in price quite a lot, and we could take a little bit to figure out what I think is going to sell and what's not going to sell. So starting off, the really only thing that's retained any great amount of value is the Merkava Mark IIB, which seems to have stabilized around the $30 mark. My personal assumption here is that because it's a tank and high tier, it had a lot of demand for it, and so a lot of people actually kept theirs, so it wasn't as available on the market as others. As it is, of all these event vehicles, the only one that has more demand for it than supply. The only other event vehicles that have retained their value are the 2 planes and the 1 destroyer. However, their value has tanked considerably since their original launch. Now, it's obvious why the planes have retained any amount of their value is because they're actually good vehicles. The J6K being a great fighter, especially if you want to ground at Japan, it's sitting around 14 Gaijin bucks, and the Tisma being a great ground attacker at $12. As for the destroyer, the Type 1942, it is also around 15, only losing about $5 over time so far. The BT-811 is only around $650, although it started at around 10, so it didn't actually lose that much value, but it never held a lot in the first place. And the QF 3.7 RAM has unfortunately gone down quite a lot and is now at $3.3. So what does this all mean for the new event vehicles? Well, my predictions are that the BA-11, despite being a great meme tank and iconic, will not hold a lot. It'll will probably be around 2 to 3 like the QF Ram. And this is because the people who want to power grind to the top and be macho top tier guys have no interest in it. People who don't have much interest in the Russian tree have no interest in this tank. And people looking for a vehicle to help them get through the Russian tree also have no interest in this tank as it's 1.3. So that makes it so the only people who are interested in this tank are the people like me who love steel clubbing and making their dreams become memes. The only situation in which this tank will have any amount of value is that if not that many people partake in the event. However, people are going to partake in the event because you can do the challenges just by with Golden Eagles. Or further on that, the market will be flooded with these things because there's going to be another group of people who have no interest in it, and those are the people who are trying to grind out the US Navy by getting a new US destroyer, the USS Phelps, which I think is going to actually retain a good amount of its value. It will dip at first, like everything, but eventually will probably peter out, and I'm going to say it's going to stay around $30 because it looks like a pretty good destroyer, and will definitely be sought after by people who want to grind the US Navy tree, or at least take something out with their Helena. But what do you think the price of the event vehicles are going to be? Because that's just about all the news this week, so I hope you like this video. First, I'd like to thank my YouTube members, starting with a new one, Durkonks TV, Roger Rammer, The Royal Rat, Grimace, I like them thick, Mighty Peppers, Pointless Gunseeks, and Waffly Joker 6. A big thank you to all of them. YouTube members get videos uploaded to them a little bit early, access to unique Discord channel, and emojis during streams. So if you care to join them, hit the join button down below. It only costs $5 a month. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you didn't like the video, don't hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. I make War Thunder weekly news videos every weekend. I make random videos throughout the week. Currently, I have planned a Hungarian air tech tree to go along with my ground tech tree that I recently did. And also somebody had contacted me to do a Romanian tech tree, so I'm quite eager to actually start doing a video on that one because it looks pretty good. And I stream on Saturdays, so if you care about any of that, be sure to hit the bell icon to be notified anytime I upload anything. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day. In the terms of bonus news, it's very possible the XM1 could be getting a buff sometime soon. I was handed some documents that were referring to a IFV that had armor equivalent to the XM1. And it states here, monolithic special armor designed to provide protection equivalent to the XM1, and monolithic special armor designed to provide frontal armor protection equivalent to XM1, but reduce the side protection as required to meet GVW. And on the next page, for turret/pod front for 1 and 2 against the XM579E4, the armor will defeat that threat projectile at all attack angles. However, in-game, the XM579E1 shell of the MBT-70 easily penetrates the XM1 front turret armor. Sounds like an open-shut case. Turret armor needs to be stronger, right? Well, I have a lot of questions, like, is there much of a difference between the XM579E4 and E1? Maybe not, but the big one is, what XM1 are they talking about? Because currently there are two in-game, the Chrysler XM1 and the GM XM1. And I believe they have different armor values. However, the Chrysler one is the one they went with, so perhaps it's implying that. However, there was a third XM1 not currently in game, which is much more closer to the final product, the Abrams. Perhaps from reading the full document, I could figure this out, but this is bonus news. Also in bonus news, it's a double term this time, mainly because I actually forgot to put the last bit in the actual video. Despite the BF109K4 only having a max of 25mm of penetration, it can apparently one-shot a IS-2 that has 30mm of roof armor.